place? I just sold my old place for $85,000, and my landlord was real upset about that. He said, you were renting that place. I said, oh, man, I forgot. I'll give you some of the money. I feel horrible about this. So I want to tell you all about what's going on in my life, but, you know, first I got to go to the bathroom, and you can watch the opening credits, and I should be right back. Okay?
Thanks for staying up later, and it's Garry Shandling's interview. How do you like the set?
This is great. We're going to do the whole thing in this one set like the Honeymooners used to do.
That's
That'll
right.
be exciting.
You know what's a good thing about the Honeymooners? If Alice went into the bedroom, it didn't make any difference if they brought a brass band into the main room. No one could hear. Those bedroom walls were made of cement.
That's true. That's true. Unlike yeah, real apartments in New York, right? But this is a lovely place you have here. My set designer designed the set for my show after my house in Sherman Oaks. He came over to the house, looked around, and said, I think it should be nicer than this. And I think that was like the ultimate insult for a set designer to put down your house.
What was the inspiration for the show? And obviously it was creative, but there were some precedents for that kind of approach.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, people ask me, who influenced you talking to the camera? First of all, we all know that that's not big news. I mean, George Burns did it first on television, I think, and of course Jack Benny did it. But I was really influenced by Woody Allen. I mean, you know, Woody's my idol, and in movies like Annie Hall when he talked to the camera, and that's what really influenced me. I had never really studied the George Burns show. In fact, it's bizarre to watch the old George Burns show now and see the number of similarities. I mean, it's just spooky that he did some incredibly hip things on that show. But
let's talk about a couple of specific Garry Shandling show episodes. The one where you did the Graduate takeoff with Mrs. Robertson.
Yeah, I think that's probably still the best episode we did. And you know how that came about is we got the idea to do a show where a friend of Gary's mom hits on Garry. And does that sound weird for me to talk about myself in the third person? So that's the writer's head talking. I swear in real life, otherwise
do you know how many
I don't
people
call someone and go, hi, Garry would like to go out with you.
Do you know how many people now talk about themselves, public figures talk about themselves in the third person?
Well, let's think about it.
Athletes do it all the time.
Now, wait a minute. Do they? You know what the worst trap is when they go, we're going to Detroit next. And you go, who's we? You know, and they're talking about themselves.
Yeah.
But that's weird. But the way I talk about it in the third person, which gets us into that weird and wild thing we should talk about at some point. But, you know, when I talk about it in the third person, it's the writer talking about that show, and I often saw Garry as a character, strangely enough. I mean, sometimes it was me, and I would go back and forth and go, well, what I would do. But often that show became something that was very different than me. So it was like, as a writer, I'd go, well, I think Garry should. So that's how I would do it. I don't think I've ever... If at any point in this interview I say, Garry really enjoyed doing his TV show, then just reach
you've gone around the corner
and shake me around.
But almost all the shows had at their center that Garry Shandling anxiety. Different situations, but that anxiety was essential.
I think that it was absolutely sort of a guy really confused about the world and figuring out, and you know, a little neurotic, and where it got be into a character and beyond what was real was, you know, the character became more neurotic and sort of more frenetic than certainly I am. Not that I don't have my moments, but it was certainly you know.
On the Graduate one,
becomes a caricature more than anything else, you know.
On the Graduate takeoff, in walks Norman Fell, whom none of us remember was in the Graduate, but he was briefly.
Well,
he was a landlord or something, and
I'll tell you what happened there, and we got off track, but. So we got the idea that one of Gary's mom's friends should hit on him, and then we thought, hey, let's do a parody of The Graduate. And our first thought was to get Buck Henry. Now, Norman is probably watching, he didn't know that it's not that he wasn't our first choice, but we immediately jumped to Buck Henry because he was a writer, and he wrote the movie and all that. And we wanted someone to come in and say, Garry, this is just like The Graduate. So we started to think about Norman Fell. And then then we realized that people probably wouldn't remember Norman from the movie. So I said, well, why don't we show a clip of the movie that Norman carries around the movie, and goes, yes, I was in the movie. And then he popped it in, and he's in that little part. He was the landlord when Dustin moved to wherever it was, Northern California, I think it was.
That was great, Norman.
Yeah, Norman, I'm sorry. I didn't remember that part.
Well, it was kind of a small part.
Yeah, but, you know, it qualifies you to help me out with this. Do I have to, in order to get Elaine, do I have to sleep with Mrs. Robertson?
Of course not.
But that's what Dustin Hoffman did.
Yeah, but that was a movie. This is real life. You're in control here.
Oh, man, don't put that kind of pressure on me, Norman.
Listen, if I were you, I'd go see Elaine before her mother does.
Right.
Now, you better hurry because there's only 4 minutes left to the show.
Are we that close to the end?
Yeah.
All right, I better get going. Thanks. That's great advice.
Right.
I'll see you guys later.
Good luck, Garry.
See you. Okay. Thanks, Norm.
Nance, you want to see this again? You know, the second time you see it, the performance kind of grows on you. Certain nuances that you
What about the girl who, the gorgeous cable installer?
Well, she played by Sean Southwick in the pilot episode. That was still one of the funniest scenes we did. The pilot episode involved me going on one of those classic bad first dates.
Yeah.
And it was with the cable TV installer. And the classic scene, it was a great scene, is we went back to her apartment, and all she talked about was her cat. And that segued into her watching Gilligan's Island and singing the entire theme as we watched Gilligan's Island. And there was just a tight shot of my face going, I feel like Gilligan. I can't get off this date.
The weather started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed. If not for the current of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship set ground on the shore of this enchanted desert isle. With Gilligan, the skipper to the millionaire and his wife. The movie star, the professor and Marianne. This is a great one. The professor builds a ham radio set.
Right.
But just before he gets ready to signal for help, Gilligan comes along and accidentally knocks the radio into the lagoon, so they end up still being stranded.
Oh, what a jerk.
Oh, God. I just ruined the whole thing for you, didn't I?
No, you didn't. No, you can't get your hopes up too high on this show. No. You got to go in knowing they're not getting off the island. If as soon as they get off the island, the series is over. I knew something was going to happen. It's okay.
I never thought of it that way.
You know, it's so odd as I'm sitting here and you're talking about the show. I'm really having trouble remembering specific moments. It's unbelievable to me. It's like either my memory is shot, or what's really happened is I got so burned out and I'm moving on to other things that it's all a blur, and I'm sure everyone on the show would sort of feel that way. So it's really interesting to hear you pick out specific moments, because I have forgotten individual moments, and there were so many really nice ones that I'm proud of, but they don't jump into my head, strangely enough.
You know, I think that the most effective parodies of television have usually been done by people who have some real affection for television. Not people who view it with disdain, but people who view it with bemusement. Like, yeah, most of it is stupid, but you can tell that Letterman doesn't really hate television. He just doesn't want to be the biggest jerk on television, the most TV-type guy, so he just wants to distance himself from it. The SCTV guys who did the devastating Merv Griffin stuff and everything else, you could tell they were television fans, not people who had disgust with the medium, but who grew up with it.
Oh, yeah, because, you know, their comedy is about television. I mean, you know, we're starting to get into this cycle where, you know, we were talking about the other night that art is coming to an end because we're starting to talk about, we're starting to make jokes on art instead of creating new art in a way. And I certainly was really influenced by television, but my motivation for doing my show was that I was a situation comedy writer, and and I wrote for Sanford and Son and some other shows when I was like 25 years old, and they were very funny. And I remember sitting at the typewriter and just falling into these formulas, you know.
Yeah.
And there was something about me that rejected that. So I knew if I was going to stay in TV, I wanted to do something really different. Yet, you're right, I really love television. I mean, I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. My only input with comedy was from, like, The Tonight Show and stuff. I mean, I feel like The Tonight Show's part of my life, you know? I mean, part of me. I mean, I just used to be glued to it and stuff like that. So I always wanted to, you know, also do that.
Here's Garry Shandling!
New place, I'm starting fresh. This is the stuff I wouldn't trust the movers to touch. This is my own personal stuff. This is my hair dryer. This is a Conair 1500. And God forbid there's a power blackout. I have this portable generator so that it'll keep my hair dryer going, because you always want to look good even in an emergency.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so much artifice in television and everything, and we do what we can to eliminate that and kind of break through the fourth wall.
Oh, I can't believe she worked longer on you, by the way. I guess the star of the show gets a little longer.
But we gave you enough attention,
That was good, good.
How's
What did
the
you
hair?
call it? You said it was the big hair anxiety.
It's a hair anxiety program. That's what it is.
You spend as much time on your hair as I do. No one knows this.
Absolutely not true.
But I was in the makeup room and out, and you were in there before me, and you were still lingering when I left.
But I was just looking in on you.
Oh,
I was done.
Right.
I was done. I walked right
and
into
I think
the
you
building
put about
and right onto the set.
5 to 6 different sets of clothes on, too, and you came in and went, no, I've never seen a guy so concerned.
Vicious lies. How is your hair?
My hair's doing good, thanks a lot. Actually, your hair person said that it was getting too full on the sides. Everyone comments on my hair, it's unbelievable. She said,
well, you started
poop it down.
You're the person
you started it. There's a mature
person.
response. You started it.
That's one notch above your mother.
Oh, that's way below your mother. You know, I don't know. I should have never started talking about my hair. You're right, because people will yell on the street, hey, your hair looks good today. And I'll have like a baseball hat on, but it's like one of those.
Yeah, I saw you in concert about a week or so ago, and people were yelling from the audience, your hair looks great. How's your hair? Fix your hair.
In the middle of my routines, too,
right.
weren't they? Weren't they?
Screwing up your timing.
Yeah, no, they do. They yell out my hair, and they yell out, yeah, people, I guess, you know, I must have an energy about me that allows people to really, you know, feel free to do that, because I was standing on a corner here in New York, I swear, and a guy heckled me as he drove by in his car. He yelled, Gary, you're 39 and you'll never get married. And he kept going. It was the weirdest thing. It's absolutely a fact, and he kept going. It was like a guy yelling that, you know.
You didn't stick around The Tonight Show as the permanent guest host long enough to ever host an anniversary special, but you scratched that itch on your own.
I think one of the projects I'm really most proud of is this. I did the Garry Shandling 25th anniversary special for Showtime, and we did it like, it's so odd how ideas, you know, people wonder how. I had done one special for Showtime, and then they said, hey, do another one. And so I had a couple of ideas, and one of them wasn't the 25th anniversary special, but I'd always had it in my head. In fact, when I was a writer, I said to a friend of mine, another writer, I said, wouldn't it be funny to do a show as though you'd been on the air 25 years and do it dead straight and show old clips, and wouldn't that be a wonderful format in which to be funny, and you could be funny in the clips and all that, and sort of parody talk shows if you did a 25th anniversary show.
The thing I liked best about it, apart from the specific bits, like you talking to an off-color Mr. Ed, and they had to bleep it all out and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the flashbacks were so time-specific.
Yeah.
You know, the hair was slicked back for the mid-'60s and the narrow lapel things, and there was even one period of time where it was clear that the show had capitulated to trendiness, and there were go-go girls in like booths flanking you on either side.
Oh, yeah, it was great. I mean, I'm really proud of that. I really, thanks. I mean, I really love that show and all those moments. And, you know, it wasn't sketchy, so the changes were subtle, like, it would be like me with the same hairstyle, but with a mustache.
Right.
But that's all.
How does a horse like you get interested in acting?
When I was growing up, I went to the movies and I saw Francis the Talking Mule, and something just clicked. I figured if that can do it...
Ed, seriously.
What? Donkey? You can say that.
Well, you really can't. Okay, so tell me about Lassie now. Was
I'll
Lassie
tell
sort of,
you about Lassie. Lassie is a dumb bitch.
But there was one time where you donned a wig and some love beads, and you're wearing a Nehru jacket.
Oh, that was for the Woodstock thing, that I was the host who thought this Woodstock was the dumbest idea ever conceived, and good luck getting anyone to show up.
Right.
So it was just it was a host with really bad instincts.
Woodstock, New York.
Woodstock. Yeah, I think we've all heard of Woodstock. I had my hair trimmed there once. It's a great place. So what's the name of the theater that it's going to be in now?
No theater. We're going to have it out in the field, man.
In the field. This is a put-on, right?
No, this is serious. We're going to have this outdoor concert. The weather's always great this time of year, and we've rented 6 of those portable toilets. We got a couple cases of hot dogs.
Whoa.
We're expecting a couple thousand people. We're going to have a great time, man.
Well, I wish you the best with this farm concert. I think it sounds far out. Bring a change of shoes is my advice on this thing. But good luck, really.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way, brother, because I wanted to ask you here tonight if you would maybe MC the concert for us. Man, we'll give you half the gate.
You know, I'd love to. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be at the Comedy Barrel in Cleveland.
The show's really nicely done. I mean, you know, I'm very critical of my stuff, overly critical, in fact, and that's one project that I can really be proud of.
You were talking about The Tonight Show, and a lot of people would say, even given the great success of the Garry Shandling show, and it's obvious that you wanted to go in a slightly different direction than conventional television, how can a guy give up a permanent slot as the guest host of The Tonight Show? And you did, of your own accord.
Well, you know, it was a really difficult decision, and you know, it's not one I'm comfortable with yet. You know, it'll be another year before I know if several decisions I've made were the right ones. And you know, I was doing my own show, and The Tonight Show, whom I have a wonderful association with, wanted me to split the weeks with Jay and guest host 4 weeks, and he would guest host 4 weeks. And I'd been hosting and whatnot, and it was at a point where my show was so consuming, because I was writing as much as I was performing, that I said, it's impossible. I was really insecure about my work suffering in one or the other.
Yeah.
I said, my goodness, I don't nearly have time to go out, and I didn't have time to go out, as Jay did, and work on monologues. And, you know, suddenly I would finish an episode of my show, and people don't realize how difficult it is to sit down and then write monologues each night for The Tonight Show. And I didn't have a team of writers. I certainly had a friend or two that would help, but it wasn't like I was...
So the guest host doesn't tap into Johnny's writers?
No, they don't. They don't. Now, you know, if you do that regularly, you want to pretty quickly assemble a team of writers, because it's impossible for anyone to be that prolific, and I'm certainly not. And And, you know, I think in retrospect, if I had it to do over again, I might make a decision to continue hosting The Tonight Show and restructure my own show so that it wouldn't have been as grueling, or find a way that I didn't have to work quite as hard on it, so that I could have done other things. There were other things I turned down, too. And, you know, you get in a
Like
position...
your own talk show?
Well, I turned down my own talk show after my show ended. And, you know, I think that the reason for that is clear to me. I mean, if you're... There are so many talk shows on now. And they all have a style. And I'm not sure what kind of talk show I would do right now that would really make a difference. And I'm not going to jump into something just for the sake of jumping into it.
So you're not on TV regularly now. What are you going to do next?
I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, because I want to do something that inspires me, and so, you know, I'm trying to figure out what it is. I have some ideas, and it's a transition period for me.
But doing stand-up now pretty well.
I'm going to do one of those HBO stand-up specials, which I'm really looking forward to, because I have a whole new hour of material that I'm working on, and that'll be the next thing.
Should we walk off and let them see what this really looks like? Is that a good way to end this deal here?
Absolutely. Let them see how shoddy this place really is.
It really is. It really is not as glamorous as it appears. So we'll see you later.